If you've been doing trauma work for years and are frustrated because you still get triggered, I know exactly how you feel. I spent the last 6 years desperately trying to overcome emotional numbness by healing my past. Until this year, I felt upset that I still get triggered and I'm not making any progress. Which was until I had certain realizations. In this video, I'm going to share my wrong mindset towards healing that most people have, how to better deal with triggers, and how I fast-tracked my healing journey. Before I started on this journey, I used to feel emotionally numb and completely dead inside. But that used to confuse me a lot because I had a pretty healthy childhood and my parents even loved me. So then where was all this coming from? I realized after years of research and introspection that it stemmed not from regular trauma but neglect. I'll go deeper into that in a bit, but because my goal with this channel is to increase awareness about this hidden trauma, I've created this free tool that tells you exactly how much neglect you experienced as a child. You'll find it in the description, do check it out. The first realization is that trauma is good for you. Let me explain. Mainstream psychology pathologizes trauma and sees it as something wrong with you. It's considered a defect, something that you must get rid of at all cost, or else the disease will forever stay with you. But I think that's an unhealthy and toxic way of looking at trauma. And I'm not alone. I recently started reading this book, Trauma and the Soul, and its entire premise is that dissociation caused by trauma, which is a disorder in the DSM, is a defense mechanism that protects your soul in these overwhelming moments. Not only that, but this dissociation also bears gifts. So people who experience a lot of trauma and dissociation in childhood are often able to see things objectively from a third person perspective and empathize with other people effortlessly because they can literally put themselves in the other's shoes and zoom out of reality, which is what dissociation is. What I'm saying will make more sense if you look at it in this way. So imagine you're sick and a friend who cares for you brings you antibiotics for 5 days till you get better. But he keeps bringing you the meds even after that and shoves them down your throat because he's afraid you'll get sick again. It's not that he's your enemy, he is well-intentioned, just a little confused and extreme. Similar is the case with trauma. Let me give you a concrete example. So let's say as a child, whenever you were loud, you received beatings from your parents. With enough repetition, you'll develop this intense fear of being loud because you don't want to be disapproved by your parents and get hurt, which is nothing but trauma. So this trauma is essential for you and helped you survive back then. But today it hinders you because even though your parents might be dead, there is no one that will hurt you if you are appropriately loud. The trauma is still there and stops you from speaking in that way. Just like the confused friend who doesn't know you don't need the meds anymore, the trauma doesn't know or isn't aware that you don't have to be afraid to be loud anymore. So if trauma is your friend and you don't have to get rid of it, how do you heal it and overcome the patterns? If you fight the confused friend, you might lose a person who genuinely cares for you. Instead, you can take some time to make him understand that you don't need his help anymore because you are safe. But that's easier said than done because the traumatized part or friend is very young. It's stuck at the age when the event happened. It's a bit immature, so the work takes time. I've created an entire system for that, which I'll link for you at the end. This transitions very smoothly into the second realization I had, which most people on the healing journey aren't aware of. More than a year ago, I wanted to buy this online course on trauma by an expert, and I was discussing this with my father. Back then, I wasn't into this coaching around trauma, so he looked at me confused and asked, "What trauma have you suffered from?" The reason he asked that question was because, like a lot of people, he thought that trauma is just caused by horrible things happening to you, like accidents, war, sexual abuse, etc. But that's just one type of trauma. Leading experts call it capital T trauma. Another more subtler form of trauma is small t trauma. That is absolutely essential things that were supposed to happen to you as a child not happening. I'm not going to dive deep into that in this video. So if you're curious about the exact details, this is what the quiz is about. You can find it in the description. Now I'm going to make quite a controversial statement here. The core of all psychological trauma and wounding is small t trauma. Here's what I mean by that. Picture your psyche like a house, and capital T trauma is the damage done to it because of rough weather. Small t trauma is like a lack of good foundation. When it's there, your house can withstand any weather. When it's not there, even the slightest of winds and rain can cause a wreck. There have been researched incidents of two people going through the exact same traumatic incident of a terrorist attack, and child A gets traumatized whereas child B comes out stronger. The only difference was in how strong their foundations was in that instant. But what does all of this have to do with still getting triggered? In the last 5 years, my healing journey has been twofold. The first aspect was to look at the damage done to the house of my psyche because of capital T trauma. But the major aspect was, and still is till date, to build the foundation that was never built because of what I just called small t trauma. And if I ignored the foundation, I would never have been able to make real progress with healing and still be overwhelmed with dozens of triggers. The third realization was the most powerful mindset switch on my healing journey that reduced my suffering manyfold. 6 years ago, like I shared in the beginning, I felt completely numb and disconnected from my body. When I started on my healing journey, I was getting triggered much more often and objectively feeling worse. It was like this dam of emotions that I had kept shut for decades, and when it opened, the emotions came rushing up, which was too overwhelming for me. I went from not feeling, which I, like the most of society, saw as a strength, to feeling a lot of negative emotions, and that frustrated me like anything. Because the mind's expectation is to see healing as a gradually progressing journey. I feel like shit, I start healing, I should start feeling better immediately. But that's not the case. This is how it actually looks like. You feel worse, much worse before it starts getting better. Even after a couple of years, I remember thinking I've done so much work on myself, but I still get triggered and I'm more dysregulated than the average person. So the natural conclusion my mind came up with was that I need to work harder, spend more time, do more shit so that I can get rid of these triggers and trauma as fast as possible. But then I was watching this seminar by Dr. Gabor Mate where he said that the goal of healing is not to feel better, but to get good at feeling. And that is when it all came together for me. I don't have to become someone who is free of all triggers, just someone who understands them and is better able to deal with them. So instead of fighting them, I started using these triggers to actually make progress and heal trauma, which changed everything. Here's exactly what I did and still do. Every time I get triggered, let's say a friend makes a joking remark which makes me angry and hurts me, and I know objectively that my reaction was over the top, I take a mental note of it. And when I have time, I journal my thoughts, emotions, and introspect as to why that event or what my friend said was so triggering. More often than not, I end up realizing where this pattern stems from in my childhood or past. It's like whenever the stupid friend gets triggered, I become curious to learn his pattern and fears and where those things are stemming from. In the process, I become so much more self-aware and capable of handling my triggers. But these are just 3 of the 11 realizations I had on my journey. If you want a complete roadmap for healing with concrete steps, click here to watch this video next that I made after half a decade of healing and research.